Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Rewiński. Russia's war against Ukraine has, in addition to a frontline confrontation, become a clash of major economies, with sanctions and financial aid being as important a weapon as missiles or drones. The European Union is expected to go ahead with the €90 billion loan for Kyiv following Viktor Orban's defeat at the polls. But the Hungarian Prime Minister is still in power and has made his go-ahead conditional on restarting the Druzhba pipeline, delivering Russian oil into Central Europe. Now, according to latest reports, oil is now being pumped towards Central European countries, with deliveries set to begin on Thursday. But the question remains, can the race against time and the release of the much-needed financial boost for war-torn Ukraine actually succeed? Can the EU win this race? Well, joining us here today is Mark McNamee, co-founder of Ukraine Business News Network. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we talk about the loan, we also have another communique that was relayed by the Polish press agency. This was literally released a couple of minutes ago, perhaps half an hour. So it could be new to you. Please do tell us if you know anything more about this. Specifically, we have a statement from Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha, who said he actually contacted the authorities in Turkey to help organize a potential meeting between Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Vladimir Putin. And the intention is, and I quote, to provide a new impetus to diplomatic relations. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry did not, as for now, say what was the reaction of Turkey to that proposal. Do you know anything more about this? And what is your comment on the little we know about this situation?
To be honest, I don't know anything beyond what you just told me now. So my first suggestion would be that they are likely trying to re-engage United States as partners in the negotiations. So trying to show some form of progress to get Ukraine off the back burner, as it were, and a top priority, once again, for the U.S. administration amidst the war in Iran. And I say this also because, if you recall, probably about 10 days ago, the head of the negotiating team, Kirill Budanov, the chief of staff for Zelenskyy, was also speaking very positively, suddenly out of the blue, with real no traction in talks prior to that, saying how he can see peace down the road and ceasefire seems possible, Russia seems interested, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, nothing occurred. And now this has been reported. So perhaps that's what Budanov might have been referring to, but I think these are likely separate issues, but going after the exact same point, trying to keep Ukraine in the headlines globally, trying to keep Ukraine top of mind for the U.S. administration, as well as all the attention has been diverted to this quagmire that Donald Trump has got himself involved in Iran, and he can't extricate himself. So you asked for my immediate first response about hearing this news right now. That's my first response, is to not make too much of a big deal about the potential for talks in Istanbul and a direct meeting between Zelenskyy and Putin, which there's a reason they haven't met directly for over 4 years now. So I don't think suddenly, with, again, zero progress in the past year and a half under Trump, but in the past several weeks and months, and then suddenly to have a massive breakthrough to that extent, where Vladimir Putin, particularly Putin, isn't showing still any signs of concessions. Putin still isn't showing that the economic duress that Russia is under with what's happening to the domestic civilian economy is pushing him in any direction towards peace, or to seeking a pause or slowing down the war machine in any way. And it's in fact the opposite. The entire narrative out of the Kremlin seems to be continued confidence and that we can sustain this war for years. So again, there's no sign from the Kremlin and there's no progress in the weeks prior to this. So my first reaction is that this is likely more playing politics than actual progress towards a ceasefire.
And still very much a developing story. Plenty of things can happen in diplomacy in a matter of hours, literally, as we've seen with Iran, with contradictory messaging from the Trump administration concerning the situation there. But you've mentioned economic duress on Russia, and that brings us neatly to the question of sanctions and to the question of the Druzhba pipeline. Now, according to the latest reports, Ukraine has confirmed that it has reactivated all the equipment necessary to pump oil, and the pumping of oil has begun. This apparently has been confirmed by Slovakian authorities, with the target for deliveries intended to be Thursday. Now, do you think that there could be any other obstacles in passing the much-needed 90 billion euro loan for Ukraine, or is it essentially everything, that was necessary to actually complete this very long procedure of getting that money through?
Right. It's a good question because, as we've seen with Europe, it's consistent delays and then internal political divisions, which have caused consistent problems. And remember, this loan was agreed upon back in December, and is supposed to be dispersed in due course after that. And then Viktor Orban decided to use this issue as a political tool in advance of the April Hungarian elections. So you ask, are there any other obstacles? Only if there are certain leaders who want to create new obstacles. Which it seems like there are not. Now, obviously, with Orban out and removing his veto, Slovakia, Czech Republic, they never were really going to veto this. But some of these countries which have, with leaders like Babiš in Czech Republic or Fico in Slovakia, who are not necessarily so pro-Ukraine, have some pro-Russian tendencies. The question is, could they still do something at the 11th hour here to stymie it? Sure, in theory, but every sign they've given here in this week, really, the last couple of days, is that this is going to move ahead and we should expect this. So I think we should feel very comfortable expecting that this money is finally going to go through. And also, we've seen some of the top leaders in Europe, Kaja Kallas just this morning, saying the money's coming through. This is going to happen. Basically, some other officials making guarantees insofar as it's today or tomorrow. They would look really incompetent, even stupid, I would say, if they made statements like that, and then it fell through yet again. So I think we should feel very comfortable, to answer your question.
Can we be equally comfortable about the sanctions package? There are some signals that not everyone might be on board with this, because this has ruffled a few feathers, not just in countries that tend to oppose sanctions because of their political line, like, it used to be the case with Hungary under Viktor Orban. But the maritime portion of these sanctions may be problematic to some other countries within the bloc as well. Do you expect any more problems to arise on this front?
Yeah, that's where I'm definitely not as comfortable. So I would not be the least bit surprised. Even some countries, let's say some Southern European countries, maybe France even, which is quite reliant on, when we're talking about the 20th sanctions package, going after more of Russian oil and gas exports into Europe. This is coming at a quite worrying time, considering the already strong rise in commodity prices, which it's only going to rise considerably further in the coming months. And that's even if Donald Trump magically resolved the crisis in the Strait of Hormuz tomorrow, which isn't going to happen, of course. Prices will still be extremely high this summer. And frankly, I expect that Europe will face a recession this year. And some of the primary economies, some of the major economies will be in recession this year because of the extremely high prices. So I say that because if you're trying to pass a 20th sanctions package and continue to go after, as you mentioned, the maritime parts of energy distribution and other areas. And obviously the plan is, of course, to continue to go after Russia's energy sector. That creates a big problem because we need more energy online at the global level to avoid these major price spikes, which they're already happening. It's just a matter of how severe they could become. So I think it'll be pivotal. The timing will be pivotal here, because if they delay the 20th sanctions package yet again into, let's say, June, July, when you're facing the extremely high prices that are coming around the corner here, that will cause some of the members who have been supportive of passing this 20th sanctions package to maybe doubt or even just outright oppose this package. So I think timing here will be absolutely critical, that they need to get moving on this very quickly. Because this, of course, would cause a little bit more duress for European energy markets.
So it's still the same unresolved paradox, essentially. We have a country that is acting aggressively towards its neighbor. Russia has been acting so for years, committing war crimes. And yet, with the waiver on Russian oil from the US administration, again, this is supposed to last until the 16th of May. We have European countries still buying Russian oil, compelling Ukraine to keep the infrastructure online, the Russian infrastructure in their territory to deliver Russian oil. Do you think that this shows that there are still major issues in the way that we have certain policies which are based on an ethical standpoint, that we should not support the aggressor, and yet the aggressor is still receiving support from our economies?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the sad reality that Europeans, even on this continent, this is the largest war we've faced since 1945 on the European continent. But most Europeans don't really feel the war. And I travel into Europe from Ukraine, and I talk to European partners, colleagues, friends, et cetera. And Ukraine is still kind of out of the news. It's not really the top story. I think in the past year plus, because of Trump, Europeans have gotten a lot more realistic about the security threat posed by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But I still do think that, unfortunately, a lot of Europe is still somewhat sleeping through this and not paying attention. So the point being, they're more intolerant of seeing inflation spike than they are of course, continuing to hand the aggressor more money so they can conduct the brutality and the war crimes and all the horrors of this invasion here in Ukraine. And that's just, it's a terrible tragedy, but this has been the story for over 4 years now. But we also, the other part of this that should not be ignored is the fact that Russia is doing its part as well. Russia just recently decided to stop exports of oil into Kazakhstan, which were destined for Germany. Obviously, doing that with the timing clearly in mind, knowing that commodity prices are so high to cause further pressure on Europe. So this is part of Russia's hybrid warfare, right? This is in the energy sector, but they're doing all sorts of things, as we've seen over the past year in Europe. This is another area. Remind Europeans and try to divide Europeans that you're taking on the costs of this war of supporting Ukraine, so you're going to feel the pain too. And let's have this war of attrition, a hybrid war of attrition, but let's have a war of attrition against you as well, Europe, since you're backing Ukraine.
So Russia is reminding us that energy blackmail is also on its list of measures, something that some countries have conveniently forgotten about. Mark McNamee was a guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And I'm Jonasz. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest updates.